I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the word SPAC or IPO for the panelists. And I'm curious, as I talk to lots of companies, there seems to be, maybe a heightened desire or a heightened sense that, can I go public sooner? Can I, position myself so maybe, after a B round, I'm ready to kind of think about, becoming a publicly, capable company. And again, whether it's through a SPAC or whether it's through an IPO, maybe reverse merger. Maybe Nandan and Jill, just curious, do you feel any more pressure to, try to think about an IPO earlier in terms of your capital discussions, or, is it just something that's out there and run the business and worry about that a little bit further down the road?
It's in the plan. I haven't moved up the timeline.
Yeah.
I just see it as another vehicle to bring capital in the company. And I have to be honest, I don't want to run a public company. That is not a job I want. And it would be at the time where I step aside into another role at the company. It just looks like a marketing job with lots of smiling, and I'm a little bit more of a hands-on doer, and I actually don't like the spotlight so much. I'm more of a private person, but it's one of the things I haven't done is taking a company public. And it's truly super exciting about these super PACs. I mean, it's like, for me, I just think it's great, but for me in Cabotics, it hasn't moved the needle, and not a single investor has brought it up to me. Not a one.
Interesting. Nandan, anything from you?
I just had a couple of quick things. I mean, one is, I'm taking a more traditional approach, I guess, and when's the right time and what's the best vehicle. I mean, I think we are a clinical stage company, so I wouldn't say there's pressure necessarily, but it's an important discussion. Mainly from the standpoint of, how much to raise if you're a phase 2/phase 3 company, rare diseases, fast tracking, those kinds of things. And therefore, what's the best source of it? And I think I would say on one side of it, and we're getting a fair amount of advice there, is what is the best stage to do it. And I think, the more traditional or mainstream approach is if you are proven clinically, you have a couple of different clinical programs, you are in phase 2, the market looks very favorably, at that stage of your company and the area, it probably, makes for a good offering in a way. And then the other discussion, as you mentioned, John, is, what is the right modality? Is it a traditional IPO? What exchange? Is SPAC good? I mean, those kinds of things, I would say, at least, where I sit, it's probably a little more mechanistic, but we're pretty open to whether it's a more traditional IPO approach or a SPAC vehicle. I mean, I think, and we're seeing, a whole bunch of those. And fortunately for us, we have a good team looking into, both sides of that equation. But I think I would say I would still veer towards personally on what is the best stage for the company to look at that, and then the rest of it would probably, unfold itself along.
Great. And Chris, I'll leave the last word to you. Obviously, a lot of experience at Perceptive. You guys have had a great run getting companies public. How do you think about it?
Yeah, it kind of relates to what Jill said. As an entrepreneur, early stage management team, I wouldn't focus on that, right? These are just vehicles, right? And when you're ready to raise more money, there are plenty of VCs who will do Series B, Series C rounds. There are crossover investors who do public equity, mezzanine, crossover rounds who could be there are SPACs, there are reverse merger candidates. The bankers like to, pitch those. Increasingly the SPAC issuers are trying to say, hey, you don't need the banks, but usually SPACs are done with a PIPE, which are typically crossover investors. So I would honestly not worry about it. I would not distract yourself when you get calls from all these SPAC investors. Let's talk. When you're ready to raise money, trust me, there are many vehicles that will be amenable to you if you've advanced your technology the right way.
Excellent. Well, it looks like we're just about at the